How many of you are computer geeks? Well, you didn't put your hand up, so I guess you aren't. But I'm not one either. I like to, I'm like, it's like myself in the automobile. I like to put the key in, turn it, and start. You know, I don't care what happens under that hood. I can't understand what happens under that hood. It's just beyond me. It always has been, ever since science class in high school when they tried to explain the internal combustion engine. It didn't take. We don't always need to know how things happen in order to enjoy the things happening. So we're now in our fourth week of the celebration of Easter, the Lord's resurrection. And as we think about and meditate on this great event in history, sometimes we get to the point where we want to know, well, how did it happen? You know, all kinds of theories about Jesus' rising from the tomb, you know. But then there's other theological questions which have come up through the ages. Well, just if he did what he did, and for us, you know, how did he do it? How does it work theologically? How does it all work? Well, I approach that the same way as I do the computer. And I think the church does too, because the church has never settled on a concrete, one single explanation of how Jesus achieved what he did. I don't care. It's the results that matter. And the results are highlighted in the second reading today. John in his first letter says, "See what love the Father has given us, that we should be called the children of God." And that is what we are. And then he goes on to say, what we will be, what's coming, has not yet been revealed. But when it is revealed, we will be like him, which is exactly where we started in the book of Genesis, isn't it? Adam wanted to be like God. God said, don't eat the tree of this fruit, or you'll have the knowledge of good and evil, you'll be like God. And that's exactly what human beings have always wanted. We all want to be God. We really do. Most of us spend most of our life as if we were God. But that's exactly what was achieved by the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. We have been made like God. St. Peter in his second letter says that we have taken on the divine nature. A human has become divine. We have become godly. And it's going to get even better. That's the result of resurrection. That's the result of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. And so how that's accomplished, the mechanics of it, the chemistry of it, the electronics of it, really doesn't matter, does it? As long as the results are there. And that's what we're rejoicing in these Easter days. The fact that this great achievement has trickled down, you might say, to us, because Jesus was one of us. And what happened to him happens to us. Even the resurrection from the grave. So as we rejoice in this, let us remember what we are rejoicing in. But you can say, well, don't we have to be involved in this? Is this just pure gift with no strings attached? Well, in a certain sense it is. I mean, what did we ever do to earn this? Nothing. But we do need to be involved in it, because if the process isn't complete, if what we will be has not yet been revealed, we have to be actively engaged in the process, even though we don't always fully comprehend it. And that's why this image of Jesus as shepherd is so important. Michael and I lived in a monastery that raised sheep. We had 700 of them. And there was one or two monks who were in charge of them, and they had to move them from one pasture to another as the grass ran out. And how did they do it? Well, they got a couple of dogs and an all-terrain vehicle, and they got behind the sheep and they kept moving them. But that's not the image here. That's not the image. In the Holy Land, that's not the way it's done. In the Near East, it's not done that way today. The shepherd goes first, and the sheep follow. I saw this once. We were going from someplace to someplace along a road out in the country, and this herd, this big flock of sheep were here with the shepherd, and the bus was going down the road, and he just stopped at the edge of the road, and they all stopped behind him until we passed, and then he kept on going, and they cut. That's the image here. So how we are involved in this process of resurrection and becoming more and more like God is to follow the lead of the shepherd. And that's why we constantly keep our nose in the source of our information about Jesus, the shepherd, the scriptures. That's why we constantly commune with him in prayer, both together and in the quiet of our own lives and rooms. That's the process. Again, I don't know how it works. The church doesn't say how this divination, this becoming godly of us, is actually working. But the point is, it is working. It will continue to work as long as we follow the lead of the shepherd.